Warning, listening to the PM-ProShow may cause sudden clarity in leadership and project management, plus side effects like higher pay, smoother transitions, better teamwork, and dangerously efficient results. I'm Tim Dalhouse, retired U.S. Marine and founder of PM-ProLearn, where we bridge the gap between the battlefield and the boardroom. Each episode delivers battle-tested strategies for success to help you lead, transition, and train like a pro. Welcome to the PM-ProShow. Gear up with us to suck less and win more.
Hey, everybody. I have with us one of our PM-Pro alumni here, Mike Theroux. And I also have with us our CEO of PM-ProLearn, Tim Dalhouse. Tim, how's it going?
Great. Good to see you. It's early here in Hawaii, 6 a.m. But excited to talk to Mike.
Yes. So, Mike, we have several questions to ask of you. But first, you're currently working as a vehicle sustainment operation manager at Mantech. You were retired from the U.S. Army as a Chief Warrant Officer 5, CW5, with over 26 years of experience. In terms of, I think, some of the things that I've gotten, like you've done logistics systems and operations of over maybe $6 billion, right? And so having to use that and translate to project management terms was probably, a little bit, you could say equivalent, but it's like learning the terminology was different maybe, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just a different lexicon. When it came time to writing my application, it was like, wow, it was a breeze. It was just, how do I put it in context that it's relatable and understandable, that supports my training and the certification.
Tim, I'd like to ask you, as we start off this section, how is it that these certifications in this direction, PM-ProLearn, are saying that this is helping veterans for that transition process? What do you think, Tim?
Well, Mike is super impressive. Wow, he's got like all the certifications that we teach.
I did fail one. I'm about to retest for my RMP. That's the one that kind of got me in the butt. But
wow, okay, yeah, we don't teach that one. He's
beaten us.
Yeah. But you've got some great certifications. I mean, you have the ones that we teach, and we pick those out because they provide, in our opinions, super value to anyone in the marketplace, especially veterans that are transitioning and looking for work. PM-ProLearn came to be because I stumbled into the field of project management, and just somebody said, hey, you should get your PMP because you could become a project manager. And I went and did that, and I found that it transformed my post-military opportunities, right? And it just opened so many doors for me. And I started mentoring friends of mine and people that knew me on LinkedIn that, hey, this is how I got into project management. This certification, the PMP, changed the game for me. And so it turned into PM-ProLearn. And so talking about how certifications help a military veterans transition, that was me, right? I mean, it helped me get into the field of project management, helped us create this movement, PM-ProLearn, that we've helped so many people over the years, thousands of military veterans move into the civilian world. And we've just really seen the evidence over and over and over that
absolutely
people that get certified are looked at so much more favorably by private employers, because private employers don't really know what you do in the military, right?
I transitioned mildly early, came in as a private, and then made my first stripes at about 3 years' time in the Army, and then started looking at, past, thought I was going to be, first sergeant, sergeant major, but then I started seeing what those guys and gals were doing, and really didn't tickle my fancy. I wanted to be in the shops. I wanted to be working technical problem sets, and that's where the warrant officer comes into play. They're technical subject matter experts in a field that bridges, much like certification, that bridges the gap in between the soldiers and the NCOs and the regular line officers who are generalists. We're the specialists, and I wanted to stay in the field. Jumped over and made staff sergeant right around my 6-year mark. I was moving along pretty well, and then came to that fork in the road, and and I chose to go left, and I chose to go warrant officer at that point in time.
But in terms of like the value that you provided and how that even translates to, let's say, a civilian organization, they'll see CW5 and they're like, what is that? Like cook? What is that?
No, and then I think understanding your audience, understanding the audience in which types of companies you're going to apply for. I made it very, very intentional that I wanted to work in the defense space.
Mantech, can you give us like a quick layout of, not all of their inner dark secrets, but, that transition process? Was it like hiring? Did you go through LinkedIn, Indeed, right? How did that look?
None of that. It was built off of relationships and a network of people that I had, was introduced into my career, and, built these relationships with years ago. Honestly, when I was a young W1, I met a W3 at the time. But over the years, we maintained a relationship. We kept in touch. It was through him that I even understood what was going on inside of Mantech. And then it was through him that he introduced me to other key stakeholders within the company that positioned the opportunity to talk about future employments and opportunities that were coming available within the company and in that business unit.
So how soon were you even doing the PMP? Did you do it after you got out the military, or were you already studying it prior to your transition?
Yeah, I mean, I was PMP certified in 22. I didn't retire in 25, so I was certified for 3 years on active duty. To be in a PM role within the business unit that I'm in now with Mantech, you have to be PMP certified. To be either a project manager or a program manager, and there are levels in their career development model, PMP is a required qualification that a manager must attain or have before they can hold these certain positions within the company. I already had it 3 years ago, oblivious to that it was a requirement for Mantech. My network professional, buddy, he never told me that was a requirement, but he's like, "Oh, you did it?" I said, "Yeah, I did that like 2 or 3 years ago." He goes, "Oh, all right, you clear that milestone, but."
Do you think the conversation would have been like, "Hey, if you didn't have it, like maybe we have to start working towards that, or even
Absolutely.
start in the beginning"? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Too easy.
Either that or it would have been like, come back when you're ready, potentially, And
Yeah.
I've had some buddies that even before me that weren't offered certain roles within the company and other companies because they didn't have it.
Tim, correct me. I don't know if it's the MBA as well. I know we may have some individuals in our company that may have their MBA. Have you had that conversation before with students on, I'm thinking about the MBA first and the PMP, or, of course, both?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, just the whole conversation around what's more valuable for someone to pursue, a degree in general or a certification, right? And what Mike said about Mantech requiring the PMP for those program and project manager jobs. I got my PMP in 2012, and I've just seen that happening more and more and more, that companies are just saying, if you're going to be a project manager, we want you to be professionally certified, and the PMP is the rock star in that. Companies that are in the defense industry are typically on the leading edge of that. They already want people to be or requiring people to be PMP certified, because so many government contracts have that as a requirement, that if the company's going to bid on a government contract, the government says you're required to have a PMP certified person running this project for the government. So in any contractor that does work for the government, if you're going to go that way, I mean, PMP is like, you got to do it, right?
That's huge.
You're going to be in there. But even non-DOD things and companies are really going that way. My experience at the Food and Drug Administration, I got a job there, and I was a GS-12 as a project manager in the Office of New Animal Drug Evaluation for 3 years. And when I got that job, I found out, later, talking to my boss who had interviewed me and whatnot, that the PMP was not a requirement of that job. They couldn't make it a formal requirement according to whatever their regulations were. But as a practical matter, they were only interviewing people with a PMP. So even though it wasn't a formal requirement, the hiring manager was picking resumes that only had PMP on.
Yeah.
So that's how I got my foot in the door, was that certification. And we're just seeing that so much more and more. It's just becoming, if you're going to be a project manager, or even in the project field, you don't actually have to be, managing a project. Mike mentioned program manager. They're two different things, a project manager and a program manager. And you can have all different roles on projects, but the PMP is what organizations are really going to. So I would say that, in my opinion, if you're talking about MBA or college degrees in general, they're good, they're valuable. I have an MBA. I've got an associate's, a bachelor's, and an MBA degree, and I've got the PMP certification. And if I had to give one up, it would not be the PMP, right?
Yeah.
I would give up the MBA before the PMP, just because the value for employers is so much more significant. Hiring people are looking for someone that can come in with the skill sets they need, and certifications really communicate that better to employers than degrees do. My perception is that degrees are looked at by employers more as head knowledge, and certifications are looked at more as practical knowledge, and this person can actually apply the skill sets that we need here. So, that's what people need. They don't need somebody that knows stuff. They need somebody that can do stuff, right?
Right.
What can you
Yeah.
come into our company and do for us today when we hire you?
Yeah.
And certifications are really communicating that more and more
So
than degree.
I'd like to ask Mike then, because you just mentioned, Tim, that the PMP proves that we've actually done things. And Mike, it may be an old memory because remember doing the PMP application process and having to explain your work experience. I'd like to ask, just as maybe some quick examples, if you can remember any of them, maybe some of the examples that you use to showcase to the PMI, what your project management experience was while serving in the Army. Would you mind just sharing one project with us?
No, I mean, I got a great one that seeded it. And I had interest in the PMP just to kind of build the stage. I had interest in it probably when I started picking up speed and learning and hearing more about it around 2018. And in the Army, the Engineer Corps actually gives an ASI for it. They actually, if you're certified,
I did my class with engineers too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a minimum requirement for a bulk of the Engineer Corps folks. My buddy was a 120 Alpha engineer tech. And he and I were talking about it, but at the time I was like, it was before CA opened up for officers. There was an ADSO. I was not about to take another ADSO for 2 years. So I was like, I don't know if I really want to go drop $2,500 plus a test and this. I don't got $3,000 to just go pop on it right now. So I kind of paused on it, but that's where it kind of started my interest. And I started reading more and learning more. But later that following year, 2019, I get to Hawaii. Start working for one of my old bosses again. I thought I was going to do a certain mission set there, and he had another idea up his sleeves. But ultimately, he's like, I need you to develop a process and a team. Tell me what all the resources you need to. The problem set was we got 1,000+ pieces of ground equipment, trucks, trailers. But he's like, got 1,000 pieces that have to get off the island. The units aren't making any headway. It's being ran decentralized and it's run in spurts, and it's not providing a fruitful output. This was for the 25th Infantry Division at the time, but I had to take manning from across the organization. I had to figure out who's who, what their skill sets are, where do you complement them at, bring them in, teach them the processes and procedures. All that to say, at the end of the day, we ran that program for 20 months straight up until COVID hit in March 2020. And it was a very fluid and easy process. I used a lot of visualizations. I had process maps. I had user boards on the floors for the mechanics, user boards and flow charts for
information radiators.
Yeah. I had information radios everywhere. I was losing the term in there, but I had one on for board for metric tracking, and it was over there so that folks could come in across the organization. They could just see what was going on and don't even ask a question. And these are just things that, in my past lives, W1, W2, or W3, I really didn't use them in that scope and capacity. But I'm like, man, if I could, given this opportunity again, which I was really able to fine tune a lot of these efforts. When I looked at it from it, it was a project. It had a start and an end date. I had budgets. I had resources. I had people. I had training. I had a timeline. I had a phased approach. I had milestones. I had quality check. It was 20 months FOC fully running, but I had 4 months of planning on the front end with me and a lieutenant just wargaming it, running rehearsal drills, mapping it out, walking it and saying, nope, that didn't work. Go back, doing all the initial planning, execution, monitoring, closing up front, just to see, is it going to work? How will it work? And then how were we able to be agile and adapt on the back end? Can end up using it again on my agile certification.
Well, what Mike just gave, I love that project, man. That's an amazing project to talk about, how what you do in the military is project management related. I mean, that was perfect. And, what I heard in there was, I heard you had a project charter because you had some senior person that came on and said, here's what I need done, go, right? They gave you that high level mission. And then you come in there as a project manager and say, okay, how am I going to accomplish this? You did all that planning. I heard shared resources because you're talking about bringing people together from different units and getting them on the same page of music with a common goal, moving them towards that, right? That's project manager, expertise right there. And we heard about all the tools they were using, Kanban boards, information radiators to get everybody together. And I'm thinking, I wasn't there involved, but I'm just thinking about the the myriad of stakeholders you had involved in that, right? And some people were probably excited about it. Probably some people weren't cooperative. They didn't want to get rid of that piece of gear that they've been used to forever. And so you probably had all this stakeholder management stuff that you were having, and communication management across all those different people and units was probably, incredibly complex to align everything and get the tasks done on time and schedule and budget. That was awesome, man. We threw out information radiators, stakeholder, charter, schedule, scope, all these things. If you sit in a job interview and you talk about what you did, Mike, in the Army in those terms, you're going to impress that employer with, oh, this person has done projects. They know what they're doing. They have actually done this skill set in that military environment. So getting the training and getting the certification enables you to go back and talk about your military experience with the right vocabulary and in the right context, and give that perspective of, I am a project manager. I have been a project manager in the military, even though I was never called one. I never had that title. I might have been the operations officer, the maintenance officer, the maintenance chief or whatever, but you are managing projects, and that's perfect. So communicating your project is difficult, but you did a good job here. Anybody that goes through the project management training will be able to connect the dots with their past experience. Again, build that bridge, because the certification will open the door of opportunities, will bubble your resume to the top because you got, that PMP certification. But when you get in the job interview, you can't talk like, you're still back in the military. You got to talk like, project management. And if you can do that, like you just did, you're going to have some good experiences in your job search.
So a lot of people think, okay, I'll do it when I get out, right? I'll get the PM-ACP once I'm done with this. But you see the value, correct me if I'm wrong, in the vision of actually the PMP and ACP being able to help people understand the processes and the projects that they're already running, and to be able to help them out while they're still serving before transition, right? So not even just the helping to the transition, but just the helping in your day-to-day activities. Am I wrong for that vision? Did I misinterpret that?
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. I didn't understand project manager, even hear about the PMP until I had been retired from the Marine Corps for 2 years, right? I retired in 2009, and I got my, I heard about the PMP in 2011, and I got my certification in what was it? I think I got it in 2011. I said 2012, but I think it was 2011. I got my PMP in December of 2011. So anyway, I didn't know any of this stuff when I was in the military. And after I got it, I was starting to think, man, what I had done in the military, if I knew some of this stuff that I just learned through going through this PMP process, that would have been really great knowledge and skills to apply in my military mission accomplishment, my projects, right? What Mike just mentioned, the project he did in the Army was just a quintessential example of a project in the military. And if you know the good body of knowledge and all the skill sets from taking that PMP training and getting that certification, if you know that when you're in the military, you're going to be so much more effective. I mean, you've got tools that you never even heard of, right? In this PMP knowledge set that you don't consider in the military generally, right? And so PM-ProLearn, me and Josh Atkinson, our chief strategy officer, way back when we started PM-ProLearn, we said, man, we need to help people in the military. This isn't just about transitioning out and getting good civilian job. That's definitely part of it. But I love the military, all branches. I love our country, and I love what the military does, right? And they're just so important to our nation and our families. We want them to be successful. We want them to be more efficient and be able to do things without, banging their head against the wall, wondering how to solve problems. We want to go back and help. So we purposely said, how can we go further upstream in the military lifespan of a person in the military? How can we go further upstream and not just attack it 6 months before they get out? We want them to think about project management and these skill sets back deeper into their military experience so they can apply that knowledge to help the military do better, and also to help themselves. Because if you get the training and the certification several years before you get out of the military, you're going to start building practical experience using the tools that you learn in the certification training, right? So it is a win-win for everybody. If you learn this material and especially get certified earlier in your military career, you help the military, you help yourself gain all this experience. And then when you get out and you get a job with an employer, you're going to help that future employer because you have so much more, project perspective in your mind to bring to that private industry. Don't wait till the last minute just to try to get 3 letters behind your name to get a job, right? Get the certification, but get the experience and start applying the things that you learn in the certification training while you're in the military. It helps the military, helps you, helps your future employer.
Yeah, I mean, as I took the training in 20, pretty sure it was 21, and then tested out, or 22, I started, just like Tim said, I started just building my kit bag full of tools. And then I found a network of other professionals that were doing it, and we would share tools, RACI charts, code analysis charts, you name it. So I don't want to wait till my last 6 months in the military, because there's a lot of crap that happens in the last 6 months. And studying for that test, it was not one of them. And that's what I tell folks. If you can, at all possible, do not wait until those last crunch hours, because it's going to get busy and tight, and being able to provide that amount of time and effort because it was no simple walk in the park. You need it. But having that tool set and understanding definitely was a game changer that I was able to utilize several times. That's the point I wanted to get at. Been with Mantech now probably a little over 6 months. I cannot say that I've had the amount of projects and opportunities of yet that I had in service. There's just so many projects and so many things that are ongoing that just gives you an opportunity to really harness and apply skills and knowledge and attributes with tools from PMP and ACP and all these different, training events and learning skill set certification that you get. That it's a testing environment. It's the best testing environment you're ever going to get.
Also want to hit on, it's actually our third segment, how companies can actually make themselves attractable to that veteran talent that have that experience managing projects. But the company side may also have a problem, some cases, learning the right terms to use and how to actually translate better into civilian terminology. But like with Mantech, I've heard some really good things you already mentioned, like either you already had a network, there was some, chief warrant officers that are already well informed, so they have some veteran stakeholders already there. What makes a civilian organization like Mantech or any others that you may have been, thinking about, what makes them attractive to veterans, right, as they're getting, or active serving members as they're getting ready to transition?
I think you're going to find one of two veterans. The one veteran that says, I want nothing to do with this anymore, and I'm going left. And maybe 3. You got one that says, I'm just going to go to the house, and I'm really going to the house, and I'm not doing anything else. And then you got the guy or gal like me that's, I won't say that I was ready to hang up, but I knew, the military has a 100% attrition rate. Everybody's leaving sooner or later. It's just a matter of when. But for me, I still had a hunger. I still had a desire to, that's where I realized through my reflections where I wanted to be when you really kind of peeling it back. I started laying things out in my PACE plan. And one of the PACE plan, primary alternate contingency emergencies, was my industry. What industry did I think that I would find the most value in serving and pulling my resources in, my time and my energy? And then, at the top of it was the defense industry. Because I find that I get a lot of satisfaction when I have a tangible output, either a product or a service, that is going into the hands of a guy or gal in uniform. And so for me, that's what drove me that way, because they're all tied to a mission. Again, it's, like Tim said, it's a contract that's cut from a service that's won by a company to provide a product or a service. So I'm in it for the mission. I'm in it for the customer. And then if I find it really, within the niche, it's still in a body of work that I've been accustomed to, in the decades prior. Those are what guided me towards, working the defense mission, the customer, and the work.
Well, I've been out. I retired in 2009, so I've been out a good number of years now, and I'm still always looking for my next mission. Right? I just have this mindset that I've got to have a mission. I've got to have a sense of purpose. I've got to achieve, the next goal. And it's not necessarily about my goal. I want to help someone achieve some goal. I want to help. I want to serve. That's the mindset that most military people have when they get out. Private industry, civilian employers, we want to help them understand that, because if you get this military veteran in your organization and they're so mission focused and they want to serve and help people and help your organization achieve its goals, you have to leverage that, right? You have to go in there and say, how do I make sure that this military veteran who's bringing all this great knowledge and experience and value in here is going to feel fulfilled, and they're going to stay, and they're going to be a major contributor. So companies need to learn what the military mindset is so they can properly leverage that. And those companies that do are just seeing tremendous, it's from that. It's a win-win for the military veteran and for the company to figure out and understand that the mission mindset of the military veteran is a need and an opportunity to fulfill that thing and just get tons of value out of it for your organization. So we've actually had PM-ProLearn has had companies come to us and ask us, how do we attract, hire, and retain military veteran talent? And so we want to put those two parties together. We want to help build that bridge between, the military veteran getting out and the companies that are looking for talent to fill their need. But how do we make sure that this military member doesn't come into our company and feel like a fish out of water, and not understand what their purpose is? And it's not a given. You have to be deliberate about communicating sense of purpose and mission. I think military people, if you study Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we do cover in project manager training, once you satisfy those lower level needs like the paycheck and the security and all that you initially need when you get out, that gets filled really quickly. And military veterans are focused way on the top level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I need that sense of fulfillment and purpose, and serving something greater than myself. So companies that get that are
Yeah.
doing great. I'll just give you an example. Lowe's is one that I know.
We were just talking about with Anthony Ripley on our last podcast.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that Rip got out as a retired major in the Marine Corps and found his sense of purpose there at Lowe's. And when you go to Lowe's, they prioritize veterans. I park in the spot there at Lowe's that's got the sign that says parking for military veterans only. So they prioritize that, sense of importance for just military veteran customers. And, they do that inside their company where they are actually, focusing on how do we give this sense of fulfillment and purpose to these military veteran employees that we have. And Lowe's is a company that's doing a great job. There are others, but that's the one that pops up because we just did talk with Anthony Ripley recently about that.
I've seen, even in my current, construct, I'm a flex employee. I'm a remote 100%, and I'm able to do more with my time. I mentioned earlier that I failed my RMP on the Army's dime, and I'm studying now, and I'm using their education resource money allocated to every employee. And I'm going to sit my RMP one more time. I like to look at it again. I think, as much as the companies are good and the labels, just as you could both attest to, where we love the Army, I think we would all attest to, we really love the people in the Army. We love I had a sergeant major in one of my classes. He was retiring out too. And he says, he related something. He goes, you'll never miss the clown show, just the clowns. And I always thought that was pretty funny. But, I
like that.
I say that to say, even the team that I have now, I mean, we talk, that we have some really good people, and the variances, are there, but like the people are what will keep me here. If the folks that I'm working with now start to move left or right or move, I'm going to reassess where I'm at, potentially, because the people are aware that I was on another track, not to, hopefully don't caveat too much. I was interviewing for another company. At the same time, my buddy called me for this opportunity. The other company was going to give me more money. It was going to give me more PTO, and it was remote too. But this company gave me what the other company couldn't give me that this company did give me was I knew the people more so than I knew the people over there. My salary is less than what would have been offered. My PTO is less, but I knew the people that were there, and that's really what pulled me over. So as great as Mantech is, and they are a very solid company that treats well. There's 50+% of the workforce is veterans that are working across. I mentioned earlier the amount of people that I can relate to on my team is immense. Really, I think those are the benefits that you find if you really enjoy working in that space.
Yeah, one of the things that we hear and that I've experienced personally so much, the military veterans are looking for is that team environment, right? You want to feel part of a cohesive team because you had that so much in the military, and companies that are able to provide that are very attractive. Like you said at Mantech, I'm glad to hear Mantech is doing good for you in that regard. So that's super important to military veterans as a team.
Whether or not you're a 3-year service member or a 30-year service member, retiring or transitioning is just another project. There's a start time and there's an end time. It's a matter of what you look, and then if you look at it from a military perspective, it's how do I work through, the MDMP process? How do I work from the IPM-EC process? How do I plan to the left to get there? It's challenging. It's very challenging though, because Uncle Sam requires a lot of us when you still got the cloth on. So being able to pivot enough requires leadership support and the ability to really start to look outside. And I would say that, what I found was super fruitful for me was, again, I think I worked at it, one with intentionality about 2 years out, and I was able to get through a couple very good organizations. I was a candidate through the Honor Foundation, and with the Honor Foundation, before we start working through our problem sets and how we, get to the end state of the resume, we want the resume, it's like, but what about you? And that's why when you open it up, with my why statement, I didn't have that why statement in 2022. I didn't understand what you tell them about why. I might have picked up Simon Sinek's book a while back then, but I started looking introspectively. They had us do a lot of internal tests. And I think, I would like to think that those who can do it, I did the YOS test through the Honor Foundation. I did my Gallup strength. So then I was able to find out what was my label? What did I do? And I was a make sense, build trust, and contribute. Through that, with the coach, I crafted the narrative, that I insert clarity so others could succeed. I like to give back. I like to make things lean and efficient, and then you start talking about PMP and Lean Six Sigma, and then you start figuring out, well, what are my strengths? But what comes with the strength is what comes with the basement. So then you can better understand how you are outside of that uniform, outside of that rank, or outside of the badges on your chest or on your sleeves, per se. Because while it all is fruitful in some nature, it doesn't mean a thing. Nobody really cares if you're X, Y, and Z potentially, but they understand what that training and knowledge base comes from. But all that to say, I think further left you can get to where you can really start looking introspectively to figure out what labels you carry that you probably don't know, and then you understand your whys can help you lead into, when you start developing your PACE plans for wherever you want to go. Is it, industries, job positions, locations, you start figuring those things out. It can help steer it, because the biggest challenge, and it might be another one of your questions, I think, as well, is how do you funnel all this noise? Because again, it comes in droves. There's multiple fire hoses just flooding your face across this process. And then you got to figure out which of these VSOs or companies and X, Y, and Z are valuable. They come, recommended by others, that they're fruitful in your nature. You talk about your ROI. How do I get my return on my value real quickly? And it's just so much. Again, I heard PMP in 2013. I didn't even figure stuff out in 2018. And I tested in 2022. That was a 9-year span. I missed it. I missed the mark in terms of that aspect. It wasn't until I think I threw something out, and I'll probably end there, I guess. Started learning how I can leverage LinkedIn. Where I connected, I was like, hey, I'm looking to, the Army rescinded their ADSO for officers. And I was like, all right, game on. I'm about to take this money and and I'm going to capitalize. And that's why I was able to get Alphabet Soup. But that's where I met Josh Atkinson, and, had a couple phone calls. We talked, and it was, very easy to work with, and he broke it down, and I was good. I was sold, and I did my PMP, my PM-ProLearn test. So anytime I have a conversation with Warren's guys now, I did it yesterday. I was traveling on Tuesday, and another buddy of mine, another W5, was talking about a PMP and X, Y, and Z, and I was like, hey, there's a lot of companies. I said, but here's one that I can say is of value. The training is relevant. They're going to help you through the process. It's fully funded. There's tools on the back. I mean, I'm telling you guys, you're coming. I'm telling Tim's, his network diagram already, but I tell him, do you want me to do a soft intro with Josh or not? Here's his number.
Mike, thank you for even taking on that mentorship role to even share our names with others that you've been talking to. As we're getting ready to close, we're about to do our game, but first I'd like to ask Tim for helping us dispel these fears. You heard what Mike has said. This is just another project, right? For these individuals that are getting ready to transition, and even civilians that are even thinking about trying to promote or find another job opportunity. How can we dispel these fears about, going through this process and getting these things certified? Some people say, I have been a project manager. I never served in the role, stuff like that. How do we dispel those fears?
Well, I think, preparation and planning are the keys, right? As Mike was saying, you heard about PMP 9 years ago. And he didn't jump on it back then, and maybe wish he had. There's some benefit in jumping on opportunities when they're presented. But I think the key thing, and what we've done at PM-ProLearn to try to help dispel fear and whatnot, is just show success stories. Right? We do things like this with Mike, and we post things out on LinkedIn. Leverage that heavily here at PM-ProLearn, of a picture of someone and their background and their comments about what they did to get where they're at after they passed their PMP, their ACP. Look at other people that are just like you, that have achieved something, and say, man, if they can do it, I can do it too. Right? And if you have achieved something, then do what Mike's doing. He's giving back. He's going and helping people. We're not paying Mike to be on here, but someone that's watching this webinar is going to benefit hugely from hearing Mike's story and saying, I'm a chief warrant officer in the Army too. If that's what Mike did, I can do the same thing. Right? You can see that it's achievable, that there is a pathway. You just got to get on that pathway. You can't just sit there and think about it. Right? You have to take action. But look at what other people have done. Find people that have gotten to where you want to be, whether it's project management or any other
You do it in the Army too, in the military. You see a guy and you're like, man, I want to be like Sergeant so-and-so or Mr. so-and-so or Major so-and-so.
That's right.
And we emulate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at somebody that's already gotten there, and just study how they did it. Right. And talk to them. And, you'll build a lot of confidence from that, because there's hardly anything out there that hasn't been done already by somebody.
By beholding, we become changed. I love that. Okay, then. So let's play our game then, since we're just about to hit the hour. Hey, Mike, I'm going to throw out some terms in a random order, and you have to do what's called the blind ranking game. So, for example, 1 through 5, 1 being your best experience for the transition, 5 being your worst experience. Of course, it doesn't have to be terrible, but if you use a number, you can't use it for the next one that I give, right? So if you use your number 1 slot, it's gone, right? So let's do this. Here, now that you are now in the civilian side, how do you feel about sense of purpose?
Well, I mean, I told you earlier, it's up there. I'm going to hold my number 1. I'm going to give it a 2. I think that goes back to what I mentioned earlier about finding my why and figuring out where I felt fulfilled in providing my resources to the company because of the mission, customers, and the team.
All right, cool. Too easy. We'll take sense of purpose number 2. Here's the next one then. Work-life balance. Work-life balance. How do you feel is that in terms of 1 to 5?
You might have just taken the number 1 spot then. I was very intentional with my approach, and it was fulfilled. And I say that because, I was able to find a company that, provided me opportunity to be fulfilled, had that sense of purpose, that met a lot of my higher end, components on the top end of that Maslow's hierarchy. So I got to go number 1. I mean, I'm working remote. I'm taking my kid to school. I get to have lunch with my wife. I make dinner. I do what I got to do. I travel as needed. I'm very flexible in what I can do. Like, I knew me individually, and I talked to several of my other warrant officer buddies that have passed out. They're like, Mike, I don't know how you do it, because the bulk of us are trench guys. We want to be in the trenches, in with the teams, in the fight, trying to figure out problem sets on a day-to-day basis. But I recognized that through, both Household 6 telling me that, my time management was pretty jacked up. I knew that if I did that again, I knew how much that consumed me. I would come home from work and I'd just be mentally exhausted. I'd sit on the couch and pass out until dinner, because it just consumes me, because when I'm involved, I'm involved. That's just the nature of, I think, of how we perform. So yeah, that work-life balance of extracting myself from that environment to where I can still do what I want to do, but yet I don't necessarily have to be fully into it, all claws and nails into the problem set. It's very, very high on the list.
I love it. All right, here's the next one then, is civilian bureaucracy. How do you feel? You like that more or less than in terms of the transition from military to civilian world? What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably lower level stuff. Nobody likes bureaucracy. You learn how to navigate it. You find where the line crosses is there gray area or is it straight black and white? Being able to avoid it at all costs. It's almost like in the military, you try to stay off radars. You don't want to be the guy that didn't do training, that didn't do this. You don't want, by doing certain things, you can eliminate bureaucracy, but then there is still some bureaucracy in everything we do.
Okay.
It's not so
maybe
agile at times. Yeah, I give it a 4.
Okay. So then what about the pay then? So you're only left with slots 3 and 4. So we got pay now.
Yeah. I mean, pay's good. I'm losing it, but there was something in there, 5 things everyone wants from a job. It's like location, pay, work-life balance. And this is probably part of your game here. But you can only get 3 out of the 5, which 2 you're going to pull off.
Yeah.
I remember playing that through, and again, I still go at it today. I pulled compensation off the docket. I was willing to accept compensation, and I talked to you earlier. Like I passed off another job that had a higher salary, so I put pay right there in the middle. I think if you're finding what you're doing, you're enjoying what you're doing. If you're fortunate enough, to last through a career of service, you're catching a check from Uncle Sam. This is it's just an added benefit to your lifestyle, unless you really want to go crunch it and then go after. But yeah, I put it in the middle.
Okay, too easy. So then, of course, number 4 is just has to be slotted as leadership responsibility. Yeah. I'd like to have you explain, though, what has your experience been now as being a leader in the Army, now transitioning into being a leader still on the civilian side? What have you experienced? Whether or not it's a 4, how's the change been? Just briefly.
Not too shabby. It's still people. Again, it kind of go back to even PMP. Like I tell a lot of folks, the best tip that I can tell anybody when they took the PMP, as I said, you truly have, truly, I emphasize, you have to embody, this servant leadership. And even it was a buzzword and a bumper sticker on the Army for a while, but whatever. It was probably like master resilient training. Like, whatever, guy. Why am I going to go to master resiliency training? I've been in the damn Army 25 years. Like, am I not resilient enough? But being able to look at it from that lens, that at the end of the day, it's just people. I have no direct reports. So how do I integrate and be a good team member, a good leader amongst other leaders and some of them are, you got a lot of seniority and got a lot of, skin in the game that are highly respected people, but being able to pivot that and understand that it's still, how are you contributing to the team? How are your leadership, previous experience pulling over to today are you have direct oversight of people, or are you just another team member on there that has some experience and that you have some leadership skill sets, but you still communicate with others that maybe need some guidance here or there. I have had that, I guess, on a couple of times. We got a couple of folks on the team that have never had any prior service. Talking with one person, working with them to improve a work instruction in the SOP, and then I was able to share some of my lessons learned and skills. That they had a conversation that they're recently promoted into a manager role where now they have other personnel. And we were talking about the crutches of leadership. And I fully attest to, I think it's all about communication, how you can do that. But all that to say, whether or not you were leading people or you were just a leadership prior to, you're going to have those same opportunities. Just, it might vary, depending on the role and the position. But if you're a flexible person, you value people and what they bring. Again, you're going back, what do they need to fill off Maslow's? How do you help them fill their needs? And if I can help you fill their needs, then they're even more value added to the team.
Thank you so much, Mike. No, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Tim, I'd like to give you, what is the purpose of why what is the purpose of why we're doing this? And 2, how do you feel about how Mike has done so far in his transition process? Do you feel as if we had a part to play in that? What do you got for us, Tim?
That's complex questions, man. So
they are.
Our purpose of doing this is really, I hit on it earlier, is trying to help other people understand how they can get to where they want to be, right? We're trying to help people. And one of the major ways of doing that is to give them content that they can study, they can listen, they can learn. We want them to learn from Mike, right? Because Mike's got a great story. He wasn't perfect. I mean, he admitted he failed as RMP, but he's going back and getting it. But even, just discussing those challenges of the military transition and what he was looking for in, private industry and how he got to where he is, such valuable information, shared experiences, right? Sharing our experiences to help other people. That's what this is all about. We just want to help people at PM-ProLearn because we know when we help other people, we're gonna feel so fulfilled and good about that, and those people are gonna come to us for more help. That's what keeps our business going, and we just help more and more people. That's really our fuel, right? Yeah, we need a paycheck just like everybody else, but we at PM-ProLearn, we need our sense of purpose fulfilled, and that's helping people do great things in their career and helping companies benefit from leveraging military talent. So we love doing it, and we love helping people. And then as far as what Mike has done, again, super impressive, man. You have more certifications than I do. I'm excited to see where you'll be 10 years from now. I mean, I think you're on an incredible path. You've done incredible service to our country and the Army, and I'm so thankful for you doing that. And you're still serving. You get to say, hey, man, I want to still contribute to that military mission from a different, angle now. That servant leadership, again, not a buzzword, man. It's a real thing for many of us who just want to, even if you serve back in the corners, but you know that you're contributing. That's just tremendous, and I'm super impressed by you, Mike. I'm glad that you had such a good transition experience compared to some other, folks that have had more challenges, and I'm so happy and thankful that you shared that experience so other people can benefit from it. Yeah, great talking to you. Great getting to know you a little bit, and I wish you much luck. If we can help you at all in anything, let us know, and would love to be of service to you as well. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, Mike, again, I want to say thank you for joining us. Hey, to all of our listeners, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're also on LinkedIn, YouTube. I don't know if we're not on TikTok yet. We may do that. I may convince Tim to get that one for the Gen Alphas. But jokes aside, hey, how's TikTok? Oh, sorry, I gotta educate you on that one. But thank you again, everyone, for listening. Be sure to follow Mike, hear his voice on LinkedIn. He has plenty of insight for those of you thinking about transitioning, and continue to follow us and hear more of these stories. Again, thank you all. You all have a good day.
Appreciate
all
your
right.
time.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
God
thank
bless
you.
Guys.
Thank you very much.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the PM Pro Show. We appreciate you spending time with us, and we hope you're walking away with something valuable to apply in your own life. If you enjoyed this conversation, the best way to support us, completely free, is by subscribing and sharing. As a veteran-owned small business, every bit of support helps us continue bringing great content to you and others in the community. Thanks again for being here, and until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep making an impact.